Hello students. So after completing the chapter reproduction in organisms and learning about the bits of how the reproduction took place, why variations were there, let's move to the next chapter, the fourth chapter of the biology of class 10th, that's heredity and variation. When I talk about heredity and evolution, we need to define these terms. What do you mean by heredity? So again, before defining heredity, I would just like all of you to think about a situation when somebody would have complimented you or said about you that your eyes look like your father, your hairs look like your mother, you have got a height of your grandfather. So there are certain features when people associate those features with your parents or with your grandparents. So why it's like this? That's the very first question I have written on the board. Why offspring and parent look so much alike? That means there would be something that would have been passed from one generation to another. That is, something is passed, traits or characters, during reproduction. And that is how we will define heredity, the first word of our chapter. Heredity is nothing but passing of characters from one generation to another. So when I say characters or traits, these are actually the features. The color of your eye, the color of your skin, your height, the color and texture of your hair. So all these characters are considered to be traits. Now think of a situation when I said that these traits are passed during reproduction, and we know that reproduction is basically of two kinds, asexual and the sexual. When I talk about the asexual reproductions, is basically the cell division we are concerned about. And we talk about the sexual reproduction, it's about the fusion of the gametes or the sex cells. So whatever may be the case, whether a cell is dividing into a two or when the fusion of gametes takes place, what we studied in chapter reproduction, that the basic process is copying of DNA. Okay, that means some information is stored in the cell, whether it's in the cell which is undergoing the division in asexual reproduction, or whether is the gamete or the sex cell that is going to fuse during sexual reproduction. The information is stored in the cell in the form of genes. What are these genes? These genes you have already studied about in your class 9th. When we know that every cell in nucleus, the heredity material is present in the form of chromatin, and this chromatin condense into chromosomes. These chromatin condense into chromosomes during cell division. So whether it's your asexual reproduction, whether it's your sexual reproduction, whenever the cell division will take place, the chromosomes will be formed. Okay, and we know every organism has got a fixed number of chromosomes. For example, a human cell has 46 number of chromosomes, that's actually the 23 pairs. And if you talk about the garden tree or Pisum sativum, it has around 14 chromosomes, 7 pairs. And same as we talk about the fruit fly, Drosophila, again it has got 4 number of chromosomes. That means the number of chromosomes is a characteristic feature of particular organism. So if there is any cell you see under a microscope and the number of chromosomes are 46, you can straight away say this is a human cell. If it's 14, you can straight away say this is the garden pea cell. So remember, the chromosome, the number and the structure is a characteristic feature of a particular organism. And we know these chromosomes actually control all the characteristic features that is present in a particular human being. So if I talk about a person from top to bottom, whatever he looks like, however he functions, whatever is the basic functioning of that particular human being, it is all coded in these chromosomes. Again, if I talk about the number of functions, the appearance, everything, again these run into thousands. There are thousands of functions. If I talk about just the hair of a person, the hair texture, the hair length, the rate at which a hair grows, the color of the hair, everything will be controlled by chromosomes. So chromosomes are fixed in number. These are only 46, while the functions they perform are many. So that means there must be something on the chromosomes. which must be controlling these specific functions. These chromosomes or the chromatin material are in turn made up of DNA only. That's the actual hereditary material, deoxyribonucleic acid. So what are genes? Genes are actually the segments of chromosomes or segments of DNA you can see. So if this DNA or the chromosome, I just divide into parts. So these are the genes. And how do we divide it? It's not a random division that if I want to cut a particular chromosome into n number of parts, I will say, okay, I have created genes. No. That is that particular sequence of a DNA which will perform a specific function. For example, there is a gene for the production of hormone insulin. So that will be of a particular length in case of a DNA. Okay. And when it was first mapped, this is a huge project known as Human Genome Project, in which the mapping of human genome, the complete DNA was done, where it was shown and decided that which gene performs which kind of functions. So what are actually genes? Genes are segments of DNA which perform a specific function. Okay, so I hope you are clear with what are genes. Another defined definition which you can say is a gene is the basic unit of heredity which contains information for a certain characteristic, for a certain feature. Okay. So again a question arises. Just think of another situation now, that if there are 100 offsprings of the same couple, all 100 are different. If we talk about a situation of Corvas, the same couple gave birth to 100 of them and 100 were different. They look similar to the parents but they are not identical. So these terms have to be used very intelligently. You cannot say the offsprings are identical to the parents. They are not identical. They are just similar. They are not same. They are just similar. Some of the features are matching, which means if they are not completely same, there must be something different. And that what is something different is being termed as variations. That's why I put an arrow from here to here indicating the same. They are similar, not identical. And why they are not identical? Because of the variations. So these variations among the siblings give them certain benefit, and that's the reason they are present. I always tell you in science, everything has a reason behind this. So now we are going to answer these questions. When we know the variations are bound to appear, why variations are important. In the previous chapter we have already studied when we differentiated between the asexual and the sexually reproducing organisms. We said and we found out that the asexually reproduced organisms have lesser number of variations, while the sexually reproducing organisms have more number of variations, simply because of the fact that there is only one parent involved in case of asexual reproduction and there are two different parents involved in case of sexual reproductions. So coming back to the question which we were discussing, why variations are important. Just think of this, that if everyone has the same characteristic feature and then there is a sudden change in the environment which is adverse to the survival of that particular organism, then what will happen? That particular organism will be wiped out from the earth because they were not able to survive because of the changed environmental feature. So that's why variations are important. Let's understand this by taking an example of a temperate water. So in temperate region, in an aquatic body, there are different kind of bacteria. Let's study two kind of bacteria, bacteria A and bacteria B. The basic difference between bacteria A and bacteria B is, in case of bacteria A, they are not heat resistant. While bacteria B, they have a variation, they have an additional gene of being heat resistance, which means that bacteria B are able to tolerate a rise in temperature or a heated water environment. So just think, because of global warming, what happens? Suddenly the temperature of the temperate water increased. So what will happen? Two kind of bacteria are there. One bacteria will think, no, 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 I can't tolerate, it's too hot, it's boiling. How will I survive? Because that bacteria will not have a gene to tolerate the boiling water. But at the same time, which bacteria will be enjoying this change environment? The bacteria which has a heat resistant gene. That bacteria will tell, wow, that's now my time. It's me who has the heat resistant gene, and now it will be all me all over, because the rest are going to perish because they are not having the heat resistant gene. And that what happens, and I have summarized here, that bacteria A is not heat resistant, so it will perish, but bacteria B is heat resistant and it will survive. So what you have got by this? That it's survival of the fittest. Those who are fit are hit. So those who are fit will survive and the rest will perish. Or we say the nature selects the best. So that's why variations are important. Just think of a situation if all the bacteria would have been the same and they would have not got any heat resistant gene, then the complete species of bacteria would have been wiped out. So variations give a chance for the organisms to continue their species, because of the changed environment, some will survive, they will again reproduce and multiply and increase in number, and those who are not able to survive, they will perish. But then some will survive because of variations. So variations are important for the survival of species. This is also one of the very important questions which is asked in the board exams. I hope in this video you are able to understand the name of the chapter, what is heredity and what is variations. So variations accumulate over generations, and this leads to the process of evolution. So if variations would not have been there, evolution would have never occurred. So in the coming videos, in the next videos, we will be studying about how it leads to evolution. First, we will understand the concept of heredity. Thank you.